site plan review, and we have a public hearing on the Brooks Parks Cottage relocation site plan. That will be conducted at 7 o'clock or as soon thereafter as we are able to. We have one matter on for site plan in our regular meeting, and we also had a matter on in regular meeting on Montauk Manor on-site restaurant, an application for extension of time, which we are going to be adjourning to July 8th. Our next meeting next week is on June 24th, again, Wednesday night at 6:30. And at 7 p.m. next Wednesday, we will have a public hearing on the Hellman Hangar application. There is no meeting on July 1st, so we will then return after that on July 8th, again in our usual time and place. The first matter that we have on for site plan review is the Freund 291 Springs Fireplace Road application. I am recused on that application, so I am going to click off. You won't see me. I'll turn on the volume, and when you're done, please somebody shout real loud, and I'll come out of my stupor and rejoin you.
Hampton, we have a public hearing on the Wainscott Wireless tonight?
No. Tonight's public hearing is on Brooks Park Cottage. There's that's the only public hearing.
Maybe there's a resolution to approve.
There's a resolution. Yes, Randy. There's a resolution on to schedule the public hearing on the T-Mobile Northeast LLC Home Sweet Home application, but we'll do that at the end after we do regular meeting and after the public hearing. So right now, I will go forward with the Freund application, and I don't know this, but I would expect that it will take more than a half an hour. After that application is done, we should then move into the public hearing, which is scheduled on Brooks Park's Cottage. And then after that public hearing, we'll have the T-Mobile application, which they brought back the application because of that issue that they had on their site plan last time, and we'll discuss it. And then after that, I expect that what we will do is have the scheduling of the public hearing, and then after that, after all that is done, then the planning board will go into executive session for a meeting with council, which of course will not be shown to the public. And so, does anybody else have any questions as to how we're going to go about things tonight? Hearing none, I am clicking stop video. Kathy, you're in charge.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, Eric, do you want to just review the memo for us, please?
Sure.
Can we check and see if the applicant's present?
Oh,
I was going to say that, Thomas. I see Shannon McCaffrey, who is the agent for the applicants, is on the screen here. I don't know, Shannon, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you all.
Oh, that's great news. Welcome, Shannon. Thank you. Thanks for the reminder, Thomas.
And just to let you know, just because you can't see her on camera, it's pointed at me, but I'm here with Joanne Powell, the director of the planning department.
Great.
So with Freund 291 Springs Fireplace Road, you would ask for coverage calculations to be added. They have added those. They are not increasing total lot coverage. There was an issue about the fact that the New York State Building Code requires a safety fence at the top of the retaining wall. You had requested that it be set back a distance from the retaining wall itself, and that some screening, vegetative screening, be added. They have added that. They're proposing bayberries. We have no objection to this, but you should determine if you agree that that's fine. Additionally, there's mixed notations One notation says split rail fence with wire mesh weave. I don't know what the wire mesh weave is. And then the other says post and rail fence with wire mesh weave. I'm not sure exactly what they're proposing. This does have to go to the ARB. The applicant's agent should clarify exactly what they're proposing. And you might want a visualization of that. There's a scenic easement that was filed over the property. That was not illustrated on the original site plan. They have added that illustration of the easement area. You may wish to consult with counsel. The easement was filed in, I believe, 1984. It has interesting wording. I did attach it to the memorandum yes, it was 1984. I did attach it to the memorandum that went out to you. It says that they can the grantor, which is the property owners, can plant the area of the easement with shrubs. Most of the easement has remained in its natural state, but the small strip that is along Springs Fireplace Road has been improved. I'm going to try to pull that up. Can everyone see the site plan that I have up? I'm just double checking.
I just have a black screen right now. I can't see anything.
Okay.
It was up and then it went away for some reason.
Okay.
Eric, it was very small on the lower left-hand part of the screen, then it disappeared.
It was filling the whole screen earlier, Randy. I don't know what happened to it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was why I was trying to check ahead of time to make sure that wasn't the case. But let's see here. Let me try and get it. I just want to show you the illustration there. But the smart board's been very finicky with this stuff. Well, all right, maybe I'll just finish this and then I'll try and solve the technical difficulties. But basically, there's some interesting wording in the easement. It seems to indicate that perhaps the property owner can landscape portions of the easement. Right now in front of the property, I'm sure everyone's familiar with it, it's One Stop Market and the associated stores. There are picnic tables, there's grass, there's planted trees. It's landscaped, it's not in its natural state, which is normally what you would have with an easement. And I'm not sure that legally they're allowed to do that. That doesn't relate to the request that they're making at this time. But it is something that was, it's a binding document over this property, and that issue will ultimately need to be resolved. There was a question over the height. The retaining walls between 4 feet and 8 feet in height. The ARB can't approve anything without a variance that's over 10 feet in height. They were proposing originally a 4 foot tall wire fence over the top of that. So at its highest point, it would have been 12 feet tall. They've now stepped it back. We asked for a determination from the building inspector, and Glennon has responded. She did not respond by the date that this memo was written, but she has responded, and I believe it's been emailed to all the board members that there is no issue now. They're stepping the fence the safety fence at the top of the retaining wall about 4 feet away from the retaining wall. So it is in and of itself a separate fence. It does not contribute to the height of the retaining wall. So you have an 8 foot maximum retaining wall, which is allowable under the town code, and then a 4 foot tall fence that's set back from that retaining wall. So no variance will be needed. They've submitted details of a new proposed color for the wall. Right now, the portions that they have installed are like a slate gray. They proposed something that is more of a bronze brownish color. Again, if I can get the visuals working here, I have that, and I will show you while you're engaging in your discussion. But again, this is something that will go to the ARB. Colors and textures of walls are really more their purview. So that really will be something that is within their wheelhouse. But if the planning board wants to send comments to the ARB, now would be the time. And so in conclusion, they are incomplete. However, when I wrote the memo, we had not resolved the height issue. That seems to not be an issue. They will not need a variance based on the building inspector determination. If there's no additional information you need regarding visualizations or the color or design of the retaining wall, then that's something that will go to the ARB. They're otherwise complete. I do have a question here. It's not something I brought up in the initial evaluation, but I do believe that you could interpret that this qualifies as a minor site plan, which would mean that you have the choice. You don't have to waive the public hearing, but you have a choice to waive that requirement if you want to. That requirement in the code says that if you don't need a variance, you don't need health department, you're not increasing the parking requirements, they're meeting all of that. And then if the structure is not habitable and does not cover more than 500 square feet, we haven't usually counted walls and fences as, total lot coverage contributing to it. So I think that you can waive the hearing if you want to. Again, this will need to go to the ARB, and they're really most of this, again, this project is replacing and extending a retaining wall and then adding fencing and vegetation at the top of that wall. It's mostly things that fall within the purview of the ARB. So that's something that the board should discuss. I do think that you can deem this complete unless you want additional information. And then you should decide whether or not you want to hold a public hearing. And there is the question of the easement, which I defer what will ultimately be required to council. That's, I believe, a side issue in a sense, because it's not really something that they're not proposing any new improvements in that area as part of this site plan, but it's a discussion the board should have. So I think those are the three issues you should focus on.
Okay, can we hear from the applicant? I'm sorry, I didn't write down your name.
Hi, I'm Shannon from Due East Planning.
Shannon.
I'm just going to run through Eric's memo quickly. With the coverage that he mentioned, we are within the allowable maximum total lot coverage. Then he brought up the discrepancy on the site plan, having the split rail fence with wire mesh weave and post rail and fence. They're the same type of fence. It's just your typical split rail fence is going to be proposed, and then it'll have the wire mesh backing, so no one can climb in between the railings. And then on to the scenic easement with the revegetation plan. He mentioned that he does not want the gallon pot sizes, so we have no issues with the shrubs being in terms of feet or inches. We'll let Eric tell us what he prefers, and that's what we'll propose.
Yeah, sorry, forgot to mention. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And then with the scenic easement that runs along Springs Fireplace Road, it's actually very narrow. It varies in depth from 2.5 feet to 10 feet. So it's kind of hard to plant the area to be like a full scenic easement that what you would typically expect from a scenic easement. So we would really prefer to keep the area the way it is naturally right now. And as Eric mentioned, the verbiage in the scenic easement is a little bit strange, since it does say that you could plant it with shrubs. So we'll let council let us know what we have to do with that. We find that it has been established as a nice community area. A lot of workers do use the picnic tables for when they have lunch. And so it would be nice to be able to keep that. And then what else do we have in the memo? The issue of height and needing a variance has been cleared up. And then color sample, what is there right now is the preference of the owner. But we're open to any comments the board would like to meet, and would appreciate if you guys consider this for a minor site plan.
Okay, are you done, Shannon?
Yep.
Okay, does anybody have any board members have any questions for Eric or Shannon regarding this application?
Yeah, I do, Kathy. It's
Okay,
Ed.
Ed, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Eric,
Hey, Ed, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but can you guys see the site plan now?
Yes, we can. It's come up.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Ed, continue, please.
yeah, I want to make sure I'm clear about the revegetation. We're talking about revegging areas that are in the scenic easement that's north of the parking lot? The
Yeah.
triangular area to the north?
Yes, and it's a little bit misleading. Normally, when you look at a site plan like the one that I have up here, you think of, up as north. In this case, to your right would be north. And
yeah,
you
exactly.
can see the north arrow in the top left-hand corner. It's parallel to Springs Fireplace Road, which obviously runs basically south and north. So yes, if you look at this site plan, and I will zoom in here, and I think I do have a copy of the re-veg plan, but I'm zooming in here, and do you see the clearing line just on the outside of the parking lot here?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
edge of
It should be
clearing.
right in the center of the screen there. The clearing line, so there was clearing that was, went into the scenic easement area. So what they're proposing is to revegetate that small area. They have not proposed revegetation for the, as Shannon mentioned, and I'm now going to put it in center screen, this narrow strip that's along Springs Fireplace Road that includes picnic tables, lawn, mature trees. Let me see if I have the planting plan here. I believe I do.
That looks like it.
Yeah, I just got to get it to load. Okay, so let me, actually, yeah, this is basically roughly north, with up being north in this case. So you can see they're proposing to revegetate that portion that was cleared of the easement that's adjacent to the northern end of the parking lot. As Shannon McCaffrey said, they would like to not have to revegetate the portion of the easement that runs along the road, this narrow strip here that has picnic tables, lawns, and trees. I don't know that I think that not having that be vegetation is any kind of example of bad planning. As the applicant's agent, Shannon McCaffrey, said, it has picnic tables. I drive by here every day. I live up the road. It's a common area that patrons of the stores in that multiple business complex use quite often. I don't know that revegetating it with screening is going to do much. The woodlands in that area are deciduous, so you're just going to see right through trees anyway. But I did attach a copy of the wording, the easement and its wording to the memorandum, and it does not provide, as many easements do, for the possibility of it being amended by a majority +1 or a majority vote of the planning board. It doesn't have that, that condition. So depending upon what council decides, it will, if they do decide that that is supposed to remain in its natural state based on the wording of the easement, then there would need to be a public referendum in front of the town board in order to modify or change that easement.
Does that answer your question, Ed?
Yeah, I was really mostly interested in the re-veg. I hadn't seen this plan that's up now, the re-veg that's in the area in the north.
Right.
So it was really, Eric, just a small area that was over cleared in the corner where the 4 new pine trees are illustrated on this plan. That's really it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to ramble on a bit, but that's what you were asking about. You can see it right there. You can see the blue hash marking and the 4 green circles of trees that they're proposing. But they did also clear the area along Springs Fireplace Road, which is included in the easement. So
Yes.
they're
Right.
only proposing right now to revegetate that portion on the northern end of the parking lot. But depending upon what the town attorney's office finds is required by the easement, they may need to revegetate that other area as well. That's why I went into that.
Got it.
I-
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions for Eric or the applicant?
Well, it was weird when they.
No, not questions, but
Okay, well then we'll go around the table and we'll get comments then. So Ed, if you have nothing further, I'm just going to move on to Lou. Do you have anything more you want to add?
Yeah, this is my application, so I'll just make a.
Oh, of course. What am I thinking? Yes, of course.
Yeah, you're
Ed,
trying to cut me off
would you
here,
please
Kathy.
lead us in discussion?
Come on.
All right.
Yeah, I sort of support what's going on here. I think that the applicant came back with moving back the fence at our request, which is a great idea. It does allow for the re-veg across the top of the new wall, which is really terrific. Putting a fence a couple of feet back, terrific. They came back with the coverage calculations, which we needed, so thank you for that. In terms of the color of the wall and the type of the fence, I think I'm happy to leave that to the ARB, who I know has had some lively discussions about this application already. I don't have a particular preference about either one of those things, so I would say that's their work to do. I'm glad that we heard from the building inspector that a variance isn't required for the fence. That makes things a lot simpler. And I guess my only other comment would be that if council can find a way to do it, if it's within the realm of possibilities to kind of keep that strip along Springs Fireplace Road as it is, I would certainly support that. It really, I live nearby too, and I see people there every day using those picnic tables. I think it's a really, nice community asset to have. So I'm kind of hoping that's the way that goes, but we'll have to hear from council on that. So otherwise, no other comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Lou?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, that with everything that's been done, everything that's presented tonight, I really don't think the planning board has anything else that it should have jurisdiction over or should have an opinion about. I mean, we could have an opinion, but I think there are two issues that go elsewhere. One to the ARB with regard to the color of the wall and the fence, type of fence. And the other issue, as Ed has mentioned, is the part of the easement that's not vegetated and whether or not it should be revegetated according to the agreement, the easement agreement. And that we have to leave to the town attorney. And I would side with Ed, and I think what Eric was saying is that the way it's laid out now seems to be benefiting the community, and I don't think that it would have any practical purposes to have that area revegetated. But that's something that the town attorney has to decide. So as far as the planning board, to summarize, I think we're complete, and we leave it to the ARB and the town attorney for those other issues.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Sharon?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. I too think that nice community center area it would be nice to keep it. And the ARB has jurisdiction over the fence and color of the wall. And yeah, there's nothing else to add. In my opinion, it's complete, and I would be okay with this going without a public hearing.
Okay, thanks, Sharon. Randy? Randy? Oh, you're not, you have to unmute yourself.
I have playing dogs here. Stop.
Was that an obscenity, Randy?
Yeah, I read the easement that Eric attached, and it looks to me like they carved out an exception. It says will be left in its natural state, except that the portion along Fireplace, it says may be improved with the planting of shrubs, etc. Whatever, I don't know who drafted that, but
Yeah.
I think it's, I think, you know,
Very specific language.
subject to Thomas's reading of it, I don't see any problem with leaving it the way it is. It does look like they have a picnic table over the property line in the county right away, but that's not really our problem. Yeah, so I think I prefer the brown wall color for whatever that's worth. The landscaping looks fine. I'm okay with the use of the easement the way it is, and I'm okay with it being a minor site plan. I kind of agree with Lou that I drove by there today, and the site's all torn up along this wall. It's almost it's almost dangerous, really.
Yeah, it is.
I think it'd be good for us to move it along and let them finish building that wall.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, I tend to agree with everyone. I'm feeling a little more sensitive about the easement language, because leaving the premises in their, into a natural state, or, if they can plant shrubs, etc. Further along, it says the burdened premises shall not be open or available to the public for general or park use. So I have mixed feelings about it. I like it as a community center. I think it's nice. I've been by there myself. I have no objection to the use of the picnic table specifically, except to me, my read on the easement is that it doesn't permit that. So I would ask Thomas to just take another look at that part. And then, if council advises that it's not, I just think if the thing changes hands and then a seller says, well, I want to put a fence up, because I had all these tables, these tables were here all this time. It's that encroachment of development that gives me pause. If it stays the way it is in perpetuity, that's great, but whoever wrote this easement back in 1984 probably wasn't anticipating, picnic tables. I've just realized I forgot Ian. Ian, forgive me. Please weigh in.
That's okay, Kathy. You're forgiven.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, actually, Kathy, you said, unfortunately, part of what's on my mind is that easement as well.
Yeah.
It's not about what we like or don't like. I like it as is. I have no problem with it whatsoever. I just think there's a question. Normally, we can't reverse a previous planning board's decision. And usually with a scenic easement, you can't do things like have picnic tables and people dining. I defer to council on this. If the specific language in that easement allows for it, absolutely. But I just want to be careful not to say that's what I like and therefore disregard a previous board's decision. I also think it's probably a reminder that using easements appropriately is important, because how that's written is partly problematic, but also having a very narrow scenic easement across the road is a little odd, and it's hard to imagine it serving a real scenic purpose necessarily. But I defer to council on that. As far as the wall goes, I'll leave that up to the ARB. I have no preference on the color. I think that's their area of expertise, and so would go along with whatever they think. I do have a slight concern about the fence on top. I mentioned this last time as well. Moving the fence back is great if it gets around the need for a variance, but I'm worried about the safety. It appears that you can hop over a fence and you're safe on the other side, but then in 4 more feet, you fall 8 feet. I just want to make sure we have somebody look at that with safety in mind, because a fence right on the edge, at least there's the barrier right at the danger point, whereas moving it back might have an aesthetic appeal. But again, I don't know if it'll be the fire marshal or who that would be, an engineer. Actually, does the planning department have a recommendation as to who might look at that?
Yeah, I mean, I've discussed it with Ann Glennon, obviously because of the determination request. I can talk to Buzzy, Dave Brown, about it.
I want to ask the question very specifically about safety, because in what the correspondence I've read, it was about the need for a variance, but you know, safety is a concern there. I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure that we're asking the right questions, because it's a.
Sam, this is Joanne. Could I just say one word?
Sure. It's Kathy. I'm leading
Sorry,
the meeting.
Kathy.
Yeah, sure. Please do.
You know, I'm not weighing in this particular case, but to have a scenic easement along the road like that in front of a large parking lot does serve a purpose in being able to, maybe in other cases, of providing some buffering and screening of all that pavement from the road. So I wouldn't say that the easement would have no purpose. So I leave it to Thomas to decide whether it's the picnic tables can go there, but I think there could be considered to be a purpose to it.
Yes.
And further to Joanne's point, can everyone see the smartboard screen right now, the aerial that I have up?
Yeah, it's very fuzzy.
Yeah, it's fuzzy, but you can see that the entirety of the lot is uncleared. This is 1984, right before the original site plan for the multiple business complex was approved. I'm going to now toggle back to 2018. Again, obviously, we're talking about this area along Springs Fireplace Road. It's cleared. You can see that it's mostly lawn, a couple of mature trees. But when the approval, and again, I don't know that it benefits the public too much to require them to revegetate this strip. I mean, it's a nice little green space where people can sit and, you know, eat food from the stores here.
Right, we've established that, yeah.
Yeah, but it was natural woodland that was.
Well,
cleared.
that's the problem. It was
Yes.
it was original. It was cleared. The point you're making is it was cleared when it wasn't meant to be.
Correct.
Except if the the grantor wanted to put in shrubs or some other kind of landscaping, and that has not happened. And what has been done is that most of the trees are gone. The buffering or screening that would have provided, which is likely what the planning board at that time anticipated, and while they were considering that easement, as Joanne was saying, to screen all that pavement parking from the roadway. That's no longer an applicable aspect of this from the visual standpoint, because most of us can't remember when it was all still wooded there. So the fact is that it was cleared, and now we're dealing with that. So I think, you know, if you have something, excuse me, further to add, Ian, I'd like to finish my comments.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add as far as the public hearing goes, I think there's enough going on here that I would want to hear from the public on it, just because I think there's probably time for it, especially if there's an ARB application in the works. If the easement, however that settles, if it's okay to leave it as is and our attorney says that, then I'm fine with it, but I do think that's an open question. In any case, though, I do think we'd want to hear from the public on it, just to make sure you know, we hear everything that we can.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Sorry for skipping you originally.
That's okay.
Well, you know, Ian articulated a lot of what I had begun to say about the easement. I'm perfectly happy to leave it as it is if it's permissible. In my read of the easement, it's not. So I don't know, and that's not my job. I'm not counsel, but Thomas will guide us. Regarding the the other issues that Eric brought up in the memo, I'd like the fencing, the description of the fencing to be compatible. You know, there should be, one description of the fence that's going to be there. And I originally, when we first looked at this a few years ago, I too brought up the safety issue, because coming back down there, you know, there is some foot traffic that comes around, used to at least come around from there to frequent those stores down there. And I was also afraid. I was among the people that recommended a fence be put up at the top to keep people from just maybe walking off the edge because, it's quite a drop there. So I would favor getting someone to look at that, the spacing of where the fence will be on the ground above, and then how much land will have to, the stretch of land to before the wall that's going in. Like Randy, I favor the color of the brown. We are allowed to opine about that. We can't rule on it. It's not our jurisdiction, but it is the ARB. But we can say what our preferences are. I just want something that blends in. Not something that I'm sure I trust their judgment on that. But then, and I do agree about the public hearing. It's one of those days when Ian and I are agreeing, and I think, the one stop, that whole area there is very frequently traveled. This is a big project. It's going to be really visible from the road. And I think we should get some public input on it. I don't think we're delaying this specifically. The delay hasn't been on our end. We saw this 3 years ago, it could even be longer. I think they have to go before the ARB, as Ian points out, and we might as well schedule it for a public hearing and get some input. Because people may have feelings about that easement, that would have I don't know. I guess there's no real impact there. I'm sort of defeating my own point, but we need the legal read on that, and we'll go from there. So let's hear from Thomas, and then we'll decide on the public hearing. I'll go back to the questions.
Can I interject briefly?
Yes, briefly, please.
Yes, very briefly. Can everyone see the smart board still?
Yeah, we can see you.
You can see me.
We're looking at you, not the smart board.
Oh, all right, great.
Hi.
Because I was going to put up, they submitted a visualization of the proposed color scheme.
That'd be good to look at.
Yeah. Okay. So move on to Thomas. I'll try and
we'll
get.
Move on to Thomas, and you can fuss with that. Okay. Thomas, dear, can you help us?
Okay. Yeah. So I've looked at the easement. I need a little bit more time with it. Kathy brought up a couple points during our pre-meeting that I need a little bit more time to consider. So as far as one thing we need to really make sure we're clear on is, a couple board members have talked about looking at the safety issue of the fence. If we're asking for an opinion on safety or more information, then I don't think it's not complete yet. So I think that's something we need to discuss or just be clear on where we are with that before talking about a public hearing or talking about it being complete.
Okay, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Isn't that like a building code issue? I'm just wondering if that would be in the building code or not.
Well, we got that opinion from Anne, but it didn't. We're actually talking about two fences here, or a wall and a fence. Originally, the fence was proposed for on top of the wall, and then we thought maybe pushing it back from the wall would be the better way to do it for those safety reasons, but we don't know how far back. And I think Anne's point about getting a
I'm just talking about who's going to make the call on
okay. Well, we can find that out, can't we? What's your suggestion, Joanne?
Say that again,
Yeah,
please.
what was the question again?
Sorry.
Well, if we want to, we're trying to get some input on the safety issue. I don't know if you heard the discussion where
Yes.
we're worried about the 4 feet and then someone jumping over that fence and somehow landing over the edge of the wall.
There are trees on the parking lot side of the fence.
Right. But it goes down a long ways.
Are there cuts left for pedestrian access, cuts in the wall?
No.
No, they aren't going to do that. But my feeling was because there were footpaths there that you can see that were worn.
Right.
And people who haven't been there in a while, or once the fence is up, are going to jump over the fence in their usual spot, and.
Well, actually, Kathy, the footpaths are at the northern and southern extreme ends of the parking lot.
Right.
and they're still in use as far as I can see, right?
Right.
And they really, so people are used to, because there was a wall here before, right?
Yes.
So there was a
Well, the
really
wall, yeah,
high
it's not the
retaining
wall
wall
so
here.
much, it's the fence we're talking about. And because this is also eroded a good deal, so I think it's a little deeper than it used to be.
Yeah, not much. I mean, there was a
Just so you
pretty high
know-
retaining wall here,
It
the entire
was,
time.
yeah, no, I know.
And people are used to walking down on sort of informal footpaths that are at the extreme ends of the parking lot.
Right,
Yeah,
so they won't be.
Exactly as Ed says. If you look at the site plan right now, I'm assuming it's up because I think.
It is, yes.
If you look on the right-hand side of the site plan, as you face it, where the retaining wall ends and the new fence is proposed that's set back about 4 feet from the retaining wall.
Can you
You'll
put the cursor on it, please?
Yeah, I can. And in fact, actually, I'm going to zoom in, way in.
Well then,
Ooh, boy, baby.
Yeah, just give me 1 second to scroll over there. See that EX period path?
yeah,
Obviously,
existing path. Oh, okay.
So-
The one I was thinking, yeah, that's on flat ground pretty much. The one I'm thinking of is on the southern end of the lot.
Yep, there's another one down there.
Yeah.
There's another one at the other end.
It's the other end altogether.
Yep. Way down.
Yeah, you have to keep going.
There it is.
Oh, who are you getting?
Existing path, yeah. But that's not on the flat. That's up a bit. That goes down.
There's no wall there, though.
Okay.
The parking lot.
Well, that's the southern terminus of the wall, but Joanne wants to.
No, I was just saying, I
Yeah.
believe that there are also paths that cut through the middle of that parking area. I was in that area quite a bit reviewing a couple of site plans, and not all the paths are to the north and the south, so.
Okay, so there are some that aren't depicted on the site plan. Is that what you're
I
suggesting?
believe so, yes.
Okay, well, we should have another look at that, because that I think is important. I think that plays right into this concern that Ian and I have about people jumping over the wall, and jumping over the fence, I mean, and then falling over the wall, because they're not up to speed.
So what do you,
Eric, can you,
where would you-
make the site plan a little smaller, please?
so let's say that you feel that it's not safe the way it is. What would we do to make it safe? Make the fence higher?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think we should get some information from somebody who can make a determination about whether our concerns about safety are valid or not. We may just be being like an over anxious parent.
Well, it might be just a common sense thing, Kathy. I mean, I'm not sure there's a spec. There might be a landscape architect might have an opinion about it, but I don't think we're going to find a spec that says, you need, right now we're setting the fence back 4 feet from the edge of the wall. I don't think somebody's going to say, if you move it 6 feet and make the fence 5 feet tall, nobody will ever get hurt. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. But what I'm remembering now is we did suggest that there be plantings, evergreens on the east side of the fence to discourage that very habit. I don't have that.
Yeah, and they're
file
being
with me,
proposed.
But but along the top,
Yeah.
Yes,
that's along the top.
yes.
Yeah.
4 foot
Where is
tall
that in
bayberry.
relation to the
Yeah,
fence?
bayberries, Kath. Yeah.
Bayberry. Oh, that should be sufficient, don't you think, Ian? I mean, people
It's
are
not,
not
yeah,
jump
just
into
to
a
clarify,
bayberry
it's not a
plant.
question of whether I think I'm not a safety expert, so I
I
don't know.
understand, but as a practical matter, I think
Well, as a practical
that
matter, I wanna
satisfies
make-
my
I wanna make sure
concern.
that we're asking the right, we have no information right now as to what the rules are. There's an 8-foot drop, you have to have a fence. If you do, how close to the drop does that have to be? Is 20 feet away from it okay?
Yeah, okay.
Probably is a number someplace in the
Yeah.
building code or someplace. I think-
Okay, well, who would we ask?
Well, I would either ask Ann to look at, building code and give a determination based on safety. I don't think that should take very long. Because what she did now was based on whether they needed a variance or not
Yes, exactly. It was the
whether
height of the
it's a
fence.
different
Yeah.
question, or the fire marshal. I would hope this wouldn't take very long, and I would hope that as proposed, it's fine.
Yeah,
I just think that
Same.
as a
Okay.
planning board member, I can't just assume that that's okay because we have no
Mhm.
information.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
You know, you guys are talking about people, basically you're talking about people trespassing who are coming into the site and jumping, either accidentally or intentionally jumping down an 8-foot wall. I don't know. To me, it just sounds.
Well, it's like pool fence laws, Randy.
Well, yeah.
Pool fences.
Listen, I would have thought the building inspector would have flagged this as an issue since she was reviewing it. But it certainly doesn't hurt for us to get some other advice and commentary on this.
Why don't we just get some advice on that? It was on my worry list. I feel like I'm less concerned about it than Ian is, but I'm not unconcerned.
No, my main point, if it's as obvious as Randy and Ed say it is, and it probably is, then we'll have that information. And if anybody ever does do that, we know we did our best.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to go to the questions then. Should information pertaining to design of the 4-foot tall fence be submitted? I think that was just to get the composition of the fence consistent, because there were 2 different descriptions. I think the applicant has agreed to do that.
That's just what kind of wire they're going to put.
Yeah. Well, that was the split rail. They had a little description.
Oh, that's right.
So it was sort of inconsistent. Is any additional information regarding the coloration of the proposed retaining wall required? I don't think we need additional information. I think if we decide to send comments to the ARB, we can indicate our preference. And if Randy, you and I are the only ones that care, we can include that. Yeah. Should the changes to the landscaping plan noted above be made?
Yeah.
Yes? We good with that?
I'm good with it.
Okay. Speak up, folks. If you say no, I'm not going to wait unless I hear from you. And do we wish to send comments to the ARB?
I would, Kathy. I think the brown is a lot better looking than the gray.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I agree. I like the brown better. I just thought they would come up with that as well.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt if we send comments. It's better to tell. If we have an opinion, we might as well tell them. They don't have to decide the way we suggest.
Right. No, I prefer the brown as well.
Or it says a stained tan. That's what it says in the drawing.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'd support that comment. Yep.
I have no opinion.
No opinion. Ian, are you good with comments?
I agree with Lou.
No opinion. So we have 5 in favor of comments and 4 in favor of comments and 2 no opinions. All right, great. I think we're good to go. And then Thomas will do a little more research on the easement, and maybe we can include that in our comments once he's got some information for us.
Kath, are we deciding on public hearing on this or not?
Not until the application's complete.
Oh,
We
of course,
decided to get some information about safety.
Yeah.
And then we can determine whether to have a public hearing or not.
Right. Okay.
I think we need a little more information before we're ready for that decision.
Okay.
So what is the letter? We're going to send a letter to the building inspector saying.
We're going to request an assessment of, if there are any safety concerns with the way the fence is positioned and its distance to the wall, and do the bayberry provide sufficient discouragement from someone hopping over the fence, something to that effect.
Does the planning department have an opinion as to who would be the best to rule on that or give us advice?
About safety, I would say Ann Glennon could.
Yeah, okay, so we'll write to Ann.
Tell us what the building code said. That's the best word.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This is something that Joanne and I were just talking while you guys were discussing the questions here, and I will put up the aerial here. If you look at the aerial photograph, you see Mura Boulevard, which is perpendicular to the middle of the property.
Yeah.
Here. You can kind of see on that aerial, and if I zoom in, you'll see it better, that there is an existing pathway. I'm kind of tracing it with the cursor here, that people do jump down. The wall is retaining wall, the existing one is relatively short here. It's about 2 or 3 feet tall. And they do cut directly from Muir Boulevard rather than going to the southern or northern terminus of the wall. It might be a good thing to recommend and or condition that the applicants add a staircase or something here.
We already asked for that. I mean, we can ask again, but I asked for that years ago, and they said they weren't interested in doing that.
Well, they may not want people to come on the property that way.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that's fair enough, and it's their access. But I think part of the reason we even got into this whole fence discussion, shrubbery, and all the rest was because of these paths, and because, you know, people that live in an area have habitual routines. Clearly, you know, this has been one of them, is to walk down there. I think I went down there one time when I was looking at an application up in the other direction, and I just wondered where that went. But you know, I think it's our responsibility. You know, we know what the use patterns are, whether they're legitimate or not. We should address them. You know, and clearly, if this is a footpath that people have been using, let's ask Ann about it. Okay, thank you.
Can I just make one quick clarification?
Yes.
On the site plan, the wall's only set back 2 feet from the top of the retaining wall and will be planted. So there's really not much room to jump over, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
It's 2 feet or 4 feet? Yes.
It's 2 feet. If you look at the site plan, it says 2 feet typical to be set off the top of the retaining wall.
Oh, I thought it was 4, and there's going to be bushes between the wall and the.
She means at that lower edge, Randy, down in the, you know, on the southern side there where we're looking, not on the northern side where the, that's where the 4-foot fence is going.
Oh, so this whole side, the western side, only has a 2-foot gap?
southern side, you're saying.
It would be western and northern side has the 4-foot fence offset, but it's only 2 feet and then planted. So there's not much room to jump over and like get your balance and then jump down 8 feet.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so you're talking about up at the top of the hill there.
Well, it's the entire 4-foot fence is 2 feet off of the retaining wall.
It's 2 feet off the retaining wall.
Yeah, setback.
Yeah, okay, you're right. There isn't that much room. Okay.
Yeah,
That's important to know.
Let's hear from Ann.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, since I'm the one who brought it up, I think that let's assume that Ann comes back and everything's okay. Our next meeting, we could still schedule it for a public hearing. It's just a formality.
Yeah. No, I was going to bring it up too, Eric, Ian. That it was on my list also.
We can proceed as everything's okay, and if there is no problem, there's no delay. And if there is a problem, then we'll be glad we asked. But there's probably.
That's right. Yeah, but we need other information, so that's fine. Okay, guys, let's move on because we have a public hearing. Am I rushing anybody? Does anybody have anything else they need to say?
One other thought is that the property owner and their agent is listening now. The property owner could put a sign out that says, you know, danger wall.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, right. There are hundreds of ways to deal with this, I'm sure. Let's just see if our code doesn't have some relevance to this. So let's move on then. Okay, Sam, we have to start shouting at Sam. Are you back?
Hello.
All right, hi. Time for a public hearing.
Here I am.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for giving me time to balance my checkbook.
How's it look, Sam?
That was a factual, not qualitative statement.
Sam, nobody has a checkbook anymore? Come on.
I do.
I probably just exposed the private information. Anyway, of my own. Okay, so on for a public hearing now at 7:28. We have the Brook Park Cottage relocation site plan.
Dear,
Kathy,
I don't have the public hearing notice in my
speaking
packet.
so much, I guess you now will speak more.
Send it to you.
Would you please?
Jason, do we have anyone online who wishes to speak?
I am in this.
There are nobody on the phone.
No calls? Okay, I thought we had a call earlier.
Helen Harrison's on the screen.
Oh, she is. Oh, I'm sorry. Is Ms. Harrison here on the public hearing?
Well, probably, it's her application.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, very good, very good. I should make sure.
I need it. I don't have it. Let's see.
I'm trying to minimize the screen so I can get to my files here.
I'm sorry for the delay. I thought I had it in my packet, but it isn't.
You don't have the public hearing notice?
Not in my packet, correct.
I may have it here. Hold on.
I'm looking it up online. I'll probably have it by, oh boy. Why does this thing do this?
It's on the packet that we got from the agenda planning board website.
Yeah, I picked up my physical packet today and
Oh.
I thought it was in there and it's not. So I'm going on the website now. I should
It's there.
have it at any moment. Here we go. All right. Now, do I have to read this whole thing, Jode? I've got it.
Yes.
Public
Yeah.
hearing notice. No, but notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board on Wednesday, June 17th, 2020 at, excuse me, 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard to consider said application. The public hearing will be held electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, LTV Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website, ltveh.org. The public shall not be permitted to appear in person, but may comment by telephone by calling 351-888-6331. A transcript of the hearing will also be posted to the town's website after the hearing, and the hearing shall remain open until July 17th, 2020, or within 1 week of posting of the transcript on the town's website, whichever is later, for the purpose of receiving written comments. Written comments may be submitted by email directed to planningboard@easthamptonny.gov. Let me just read that again. I kind of messed that up. planningboard@easthamptonny.gov. And by mail to 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, 11937, and received on or before close of business on July 17, 2020, or within 1 week of posting of the transcript on the town's website, whichever is later. The public hearing will be held to consider the application of Brooks Parks Cottage relocation site plan approval pursuant to Article 6 of Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to situate a 10 by 12 foot, 120 square foot cottage at the site of the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center. The cottage building itself is part of the locally designated historic landmark site. The property contains 68,519 square feet, 1.57 acres, and is located on the south side of Springs Fireplace Road, Springs, and is situate in an A5 resident zoning district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton, and is identified on the Suffolk County tax map as parcel 300-62-7-3, 5, 6.1, 830 Springs Fireplace Road. Subject application is classified as a type 2 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA Part 617 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and Chapter 128, Environmental Quality Review of the Town Code. A site plan prepared by August Henry Muff, architect, dated revised February 3, 2020, is available for inspection at the Planning Board Office, Suite 103, 300 Panago Place, East Hampton, New York. Dated May 29th, 2020. Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Thomas, do we have jurisdiction?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit of service and posting, and the notice appears sufficient.
Very well. Eric, is this yours?
It is indeed.
Would you please give us an update?
Sure. Just double checking again. Can everyone see the site plan up on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So right at the center there in the hash mark is the proposed cottage. This is a cottage to be relocated to the site of the Pollock Krasner House, a property that is on the National Register of Historic Places. It is to be located adjacent to the existing parking lot. There are no other major site modifications occurring. It's just the relocation of this building, which is on an existing CPF purchased property owned by the town of East Hampton. And this property is located in the Springs Historic District off of Springs Fireplace Road, just south of Fort Pond Boulevard.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Harrison, would you like to be heard in support of this application, this public hearing? If you do, you've got 15 minutes.
Thank you very much for taking this up. I think, unfortunately, because the Brooks Park property appears not to be, preservation is unlikely of the other buildings on the property, it would be possible for us to rescue this particular one, which has a relevance to Pollock and Krasner because it's where they used to stay when they went to visit Jim Brooks in Charlotte Park when the building was located in Montauk, its original location. I don't know how familiar you all are with the history of the project, of the building and of the whole Brooks Park enterprise, but the house in which Jim and Charlotte lived and this little cottage were originally near the tar works over by Ed Ecker Park on the shore. And there was also a larger barn that they used as their art studio, was a fishing barn. And in the hurricane of 1954, Hurricane Carol, that building was destroyed. So they decided to relocate the two surviving buildings to this property on Neck Path. They did not own the land in Montauk, they leased it. So rather than rebuild on the property that they didn't own, they bought a plot at 128 Neck Path and had these buildings loaded onto a barge, floated across Napeague Bay, and then trucked up to the site. So the original cottage is the only surviving building, the only surviving residence from that fishing community at the tar works. This little shack, which is really just a storage building, was called the guest cottage. And when Jackson and Lee would come to stay with Jim and Charlotte out in Montauk, there was no room for them in the house. It's a tiny little cottage and it only had one bedroom. So they used to kind of camp out in this guest cottage. And we have pictures of them there on the property in the 1940s. So it's got not only historical significance, but also a personal connection to Jackson and Lee. What we're proposing to do is to simply jack it up off of its existing, I hesitate to call it a foundation. It's something that it's sitting on, and move it over here, put it onto a concrete pad and use it, interpret it on the outside, telling its story, but on the inside, simply use it for storage. So it would have no plumbing, no electricity. It would just be essentially a storage building.
Okay. Thank you very much. Jason or Mike, do we have anybody on the line who wishes to speak with respect to this application?
There are no callers on the line.
Okay. In that case, since it is now 7:33.
Motion to close?
Well, no, we're not going to close.
I'm sorry. We're adjourning. What is it?
We're going to suspend. We'll suspend the public hearing. Leave it open only for written comments. Those are open in accordance with our practices, our practice throughout the pandemic virtual meetings. We're going to leave the record open for public comment until July 17th or 7 days after the written transcript is filed, whichever is later. So if anyone out there wishes to submit anything, they will still have an opportunity to do that in writing.
Where do they submit it?
Jody?
300. They can drop it off at the box in the planning board office hallway, or they can email it to what's on the
at 300 Pantago Place. The box that was outside 103.
Yeah, or it can go by mail too, right? I mean, yeah.
Well, you have until the 17th of July. It's a whole month.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
but we have not had any adverse comments. None of our neighbors have said don't do this. So I think what we're really waiting on, what we're depending on, is a final dispensation of the Brooks Park property. But we're anticipating that it will not be saved. So this is a contingency plan.
Okay.
Again, at the risk of having conversation during what's supposed to be public hearing, just so you understand where this is a procedure that we are following because we don't have live and in-person public hearings.
Oh, no, I understand.
Yeah, so if we did, we would have most likely been a motion to close the public hearing, but we can't do it that way. So we appreciate your patience.
Yeah, and thanks for the history again. It's such a great story.
Can I ask?
We like to tell good stories.
No, let's not do cross conversation during public hearing. I mean,
I'm not doing conversation, Sam. I'm just asking a question, which is,
go ahead.
Helen said that they were waiting for the final dispensation of the Brooks. And I wondered what she means by that. Is the town board, is there a decision pending with the town board? Or?
Well, Peconic Historic Preservation is a license holder, and they have been agitating for some kind of a delay in demolition because the demolition bids went out. And Robert Strada made a presentation to the town board. Of course, this was, I guess, back last fall. And I don't know the status of that. So that's why I'm saying I'm just waiting to find out what the town board ultimately decides, because Peter had said he was open to any proposal. If money is forthcoming and the will is there, then perhaps they would want to go ahead with restoration. But I just don't know where that stands right now.
Okay.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to now suspend the public speaking part of the public hearing and wrap this up.
Thank you again.
No, thank you. Okay, and that leaves us with one more item on work session, and that is the T-Mobile Northeast, sorry, T-Mobile Northeast LLC Home Sweet Home Wainscot application. And Eric, once again, this would be your. Do we have actually? I'm sorry, I should ask. Do we have the applicant's representative or counsel on the line?
There are no callers on the line.
Okay. Well, I think as we'll develop, I think, Thomas, I think we're safe to go forward on this.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Eric, the ball's yours.
Yeah, and I have spoken with the applicant's agent, and they're familiar with the fact that this is on tonight for the work session, and also you have this to be scheduled for a public hearing because, as I see it, they are complete.
Any chance that they said they wouldn't be here, Eric?
I'm sorry?
Any chance that they gave you an indication that they weren't going to be on?
They didn't mention that.
Okay. All right. All right. Well,
I think it's a moot point. I think that they'll be happy that basically what I'm about to say is that they made the singular change that the board had requested, which is to remove the staircases. They had illustrated those on the elevation plans, the staircases that are proposed as part of the pending application to convert this building to a self-storage facility. Those are gone. They submitted revised elevation plans as you requested again. So I believe they're complete and they are ready to be scheduled for a public hearing. The board had already said that they will hold a public hearing, and we have prepared a resolution to schedule a public hearing for this evening.
Great. Randy, it's all yours.
Well, Eric had a very short memo. I guess that was it, Eric. Yep. So I think it's ready to adopt the hearing. They removed the staircase. Everything else was satisfactory. So I think I'm happy to introduce a resolution to set the hearing.
Let's just let me ask the board. Does anybody have any issue with us determining that there's no further information needed at this point? Speak up now or forever hold your peace. No one? Okay.
All good.
Good. And do we all agree that the application is complete and ready to be scheduled for a public hearing? Anybody dispute that? Great. Okay, in that case, we are concluding the work session part of our meeting and moving into the regular meeting. And Randy, it's on you to
okay.
the motion.
Let me
scheduling the public hearing. Randy?
Yeah, I'm just getting the
You're looking for it? Okay.
resolution.
You need it?
I got it. Yep. Planning board, in the matter of the application of T-Mobile Northeast LLC, Home Sweet Home, Wainscott Site Plan Special Permit, Personal Wireless Service Facility, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-192-2, 3.2, resolution to schedule a public hearing. Subject, I don't know how much of this I need to read. A public.
Come down to number 4.
Okay.
I think it's sufficient.
Okay. A public hearing is hereby scheduled for Wednesday, July 8th, 2020 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard to consider the said application. Public hearing will be held electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, LTV, Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website, ltveh.org. The public shall not be permitted to appear in person, but may comment by telephone by calling 351-888-6331 and entering access code 589339. Transcript of the hearing will also be posted to the town's website after the hearing, and the hearing shall remain open until August 7th, 2020, for the purpose of receiving written comments. Written comments may be submitted by email directed to planningboard@ehamptonnewyork.gov and by mail to 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, 11937, and received on or before close of business August 7th, 2020, or within 1 week of posting of the transcript on the town's website, whichever is later. I've read the resolution and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Passed and carried 7-0. Okay. And
Oh, no. Sam's frozen.
agenda, except a matter that will go in executive session with council on a litigated matter. So if we can get a motion to adjourn for that purpose, and Jason or Michael, if you could then make the arrangements necessary so that our meeting remains among us.
If there's anything you need to set off
on council.
Yes.
So if somebody
Sam,
wants to
this
make
is
that
Mike
motion,
from
please.
LTV. Just excuse
Yeah,
me, Sam,
yeah,
Mike from
check
LTV.
out,
Once we go off the air, I will come
I
back.
make a motion to adjourn.
leave.
Motion to go into executive session.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, see you tomorrow.
None. Okay, very good. All right, we're now ending the public portion of the meeting. Jason,